Hi, this is Swapna, working as Assistant Professor in Baghdadi College of Engineering in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. In this segment, we will be seeing about constructors. Week 4 programs in data structures through C++ lab. In order to implement these programs, first we need to learn about constructors. Before going to discuss constructor topic, we should know why we need a constructor. Let's move on to public column. Suppose I am declaring a class test. Inside the class, the members that are defined under the public session are called as public member. This initialization is allowed to a public member. But if the data member is public, then it is against to data hiding principle. When data member is public, it is possible to create some potential risk. Let's move on to private data. The key factor of data hiding is achieved with private member. But this initialization is not allowed to private member. When the members are private, it should be initialized through the member function. Here, init is a member function which is used to initialize the values to private data A and B. In the main function, object calls init method to initialize a values to variable A and B. Suppose if this line is missed, then init member function is not called. If it is not called, then the values are not initialized to the variable A and B. So, if we want to initialize data members without using member function, it can be done by the constructor. C++ provides a mechanism by which when we instantiate an object, a constructor is invoked right at this point, and this constructor can be used to initialize the values of data members as required. We do not have the init method call anymore. Instead, we have introduced a new method which is called the constructor of this object. The implicit initialization is a duty of the constructor. Here, we can clearly understand that before using constructor, the default values are assigned to a data members. After using a constructor, it eliminates default values. Next, we move on to the constructor definition. A constructor is a special member function of a class. It invokes automatically when the object is created. And the rules of the constructors are the class name and the constructor name must be same. It should be a public member. A constructor do not have return type because they cannot return a value. Types of constructors. So these are the different types of constructors. The first type of constructor is default constructor. Second one, parameterized constructor, and third one, copy constructor. Then we move on to the default constructor. A constructor without any arguments or zero parameters is called default constructor. And this is the syntax of default constructor. Algorithm for default constructor. In this algorithm, we will be discussing several steps which are involved by executing a program on default constructor. In this algorithm, first two steps of this algorithm is to create the class and declare a variables A and B. In the next step, we will be defining constructor definition to initialize a value to the variable. In step 4, we will be defining display member function to display the values of A and B variable. In step 5, we will be declaring and defining main function. In step 6, we create object for example class and it invokes constructor automatically. In next step, we use this object to call the display member function. Now let's see a program to demonstrate on default constructor. And this is a declaration of a class and this is a constructor definition. And the rules of constructor is the class name and the constructor name must be same without return type. This constructor is used to initialize a value to the private variable A and B. The execution of this program starts from main function. Let's start from main function. In the main function, the first statement is creating an object for sample class. At this statement, the object obj1 is instantiated in the memory. As a result, it calls the constructor automatically for obj1 object, where the data members of obj1, that is A and B, are initialized with the value 10 and 20. The statement obj.display calls the display member function which is present in the class and prints the value on the monitor and prints the values of all data members of obj1. Then next we go to compilation and execution part of this program. Open the Turbo C++ compiler. Here I have already written the code on my workspace. To compile the code, click on compiler menu. The code is successfully compiled. Press enter. To run the program, click on run menu. This is the output which is displayed on the monitor. To exit from this window, click on file menu and select quit option. Next, we go to type 2 constructor, that is parameterized constructor. A constructor which has a parameter is called parameterized constructor. And this is the syntax for parameterized constructor. Algorithm for parameterized constructor. In this algorithm, we will be discussing several steps which are involved by executing a program on parameterized constructor. In this algorithm, first two steps of this algorithm is to create the class and defining member function of that class. In the next step, we will be defining constructor definition with arguments. In step 4, we will be defining display member function to display the values. In next step, we create object for employee class. It invokes constructor automatically and the constructor argument values are passed from object declaration. In step 6, we use this object to call the display member function. Let's see a program to demonstrate on parameterized constructor. This is a declaration for a class named employee and this is a constructor definition with a parameters. The execution starts from the main function. In the main function, the first two statement is creating two different objects for employee class. This statement calls constructor with three parameters and these are the values that are passed to the variable parameter I, N and S. inside the employee constructor, these values are then copied into name, salary and ID of even object as shown in the memory. And this statement calls constructor with three parameters, and these are the values that are copied into name, ID and salary of E2 object. The statement even dot display function calls the display member function present in class and prints the values of all data members of even object. The statement E2 dot display calls the display member function which prints the values of all data members of E2 object. Open Turbo C++ compiler. Click on File and select file name. So this is the code I have already written on my workspace. So to compile the code, click on Compiler option menu. The code is successfully compiled. So press enter. Click on Run menu to run the code. This is the output which is displayed on the monitor. To exit from this window, click on File menu and select Quit option. Thank you.